It's the NFL's greatest season ever on home video. We've taken the best of the best to bring you NFL football that'll grab your gut and cling to your memory. It's like the greatest to the third power. 3 volumes of NFL's greatest ever videos packed in one full-strength gift set. The plays, the players, and the game. This collection, hosted by Steve Zabel, offers the greatest catches, throws, tackles, players, performances, and much more. How much greatness can you handle? Team, nice concept, in life and on the field. The ones you stick by. Here are all the moments you most want to remember from the '94 season. 28 NFL teams, 28 NFL team videos, plus 2 expansion teams.
Hi there.
We're all a little nosy. Football's a vocal game. And we don't mean play-by-play commentary. And just what is it that the players are shouting at each other?
Hey, baby! We're gonna be here all day, baby!
Intimidation can be more than physical. Words push their weight around, on and off the field. We've grabbed the choicest sound bites so you can experience football as you've never heard it before. In NFL Turf Talk, the 100 greatest sound bites of the NFL.
This isn't college. You're not at a home place.
I understand.
This is NFL, which stands for not for long when you make them calls.
Yeah.
I'll be selling groceries.
This is 50 minutes of impact, the pure muscle of the game. Schwarzenegger saving the universe. Hey, you tackle problems every day. It feels good to watch someone else do the impossible for a change. It's NFL's 100 greatest tackles. This is going to be the high point of the season. Nothing comes near it, and you'll want to see it again. Superheroes, superpowered. Coming in February on video, Super Bowl 30. You know when good just doesn't come near it, and great is only halfway there. We're talking the greatest. Be sure to own the greatest season ever on home video from Polygram Video and NFL Films.
Who said it couldn't be done?
NFL Quarterback Club 96 sacks the competition with a full roster of gridiron features. Choose from over 800 plays, 3 gameplay modes, NFL play, practice mode, and simulation, custom team and player options. But NFL QB Club doesn't stop there. The top quarterbacks in the game take the field armed with authentic signature plays, 80 yards of viewable field, and new skill moves like the up and over dive. So if you want football, real NFL football, join the club. NFL Quarterback Club 96 from Acclaim.
Get ready to kick some butt.
Over the goal line to score on the year.
We're gonna be here all day, baby! I like this kind of party!
Rush the quarterback.
Hi, I'm Steve Zabel of NFL Films, and welcome to the NFL's Greatest Ever series. Now, this is the final edition of our 3-part video collection celebrating the 75-year history of the NFL. This volume, Volume 3, is entitled The Game. And in the next 50 minutes or so, we're going to recant some of the NFL's best-known and least-known stories. We'll even let the players tell some of their own stories, and we'll count down the 10 greatest single-game performances ever. But let's start this show with some good old-fashioned NFL animosity. Here now are the greatest feuds in NFL history.
I remember on the 4th down punting situation, I snapped the ball to the punter, and as soon as I brought my head up, pow! Jeez, my helmet flew off, and I saw these little black dots in the yellow thing, and I also saw the number. Whoa. And I went up to him. I said, you son of a, I'll get you.
Number 65 was Chuck Knoll. The feud grew over time.
4 years later, there's Chuck Knoll. Lo and behold, the game's over. Here he comes. Here he comes. He said, are you ready, you? And I went, whoom. I mean, I gave him a shot, and he went down. Bert Bell fined me $500, and he said, I want you to apologize to that boy. Now, it takes a little courage to go up to somebody when something like that happened, to say you're sorry. So I remember it took, I was waiting, and then finally I went over and I said, I want to apologize for what happened in Philadelphia. And he came up close to me and he said, bold.
While Bedarik versus Knoll was a feud born in the heat of battle, the dispute between the Bears' Doug Atkins and the Colts' Jim Parker was mostly a war of words.
Jim Parker had been a former boxer. He had weighed about 290 pounds, and he was as mobile as a boxer. He was strong, and there was nobody in football that could beat Jim Parker. The only way Doug knew that he could beat him is if he got Jim mad.
Doug Atkins would sometimes call Jim Parker at the hotel that the Colts were staying and chew Parker out just to get him ready for tomorrow.
I'd wake him up and we'd have a few cuss words over the phone. He's pretty good. He taught me a few words too, I tell you.
He would talk about my grandmother, say something about my father, or just something that provoked me. And after he got me riled, then he thought he could play better football.
I beat him a lot of times, but I'd start talking to him. And the ball be snapped and I'd be gone.
His voice, he would just continually talk the whole ball game, yakety, yakety, yakka. You know, your grandmother didn't have but one shoe or something like that, and I would get so mad at him, and I would just fight him, and I forget about what I'm supposed to do, and put the place John done called, and the starting counting and everything, and before you know it, we got a battle going.
And Parker would take off his helmet and go to the official, and he'd actually get tears in his eyes, and he'd cry, and he said, he can't call me that. He can't call me that. And he said, Jim, there's nothing in the rule books that says he can't call you that. He said, we're going to have to get a rule changed.
Chicago's Ed Sprinkle was a feared pass rusher in the 40s and 50s. Nicknamed the Claw, Sprinkle did whatever it took to bring down quarterbacks. But one day, he went a little too far while trying to sack Slingin' Sammy Baugh.
What he was doing, he was coming in, rushing the passer, but he'd get his hands up and whack, he'd come in like that, like he's hitting at the ball. He's rapping me in the face, and I was bleeding on both sides.
I'd hit anybody on any play as hard as I could hit them, and that's the way I played.
Well, after a little while, we came up, and there was a passing down, and they thought it was going to be a passing down anyway. And I told them, just let him come. Don't even touch him. And hell, by the time I got back 7 yards, he was pretty close to me. And I threw the ball at him, and I hit him right there in the head, and it stopped him. And he just stood there and then fell flat on his damn stomach. And it scared the living hell out of me, because I thought I might have killed the boy, you know. I didn't know he just passed out.
Most football fans recall Clint Longley, the baby-faced rookie who replaced an injured Roger Staubach to lead the Cowboys to a miraculous comeback win over Washington on Thanksgiving Day, 1974. What most fans forget is that after Longley did the impossible, he proceeded to do the unthinkable. In the summer of '76, Longley started a feud with, of all people, his teammate, Roger Staubach.
He said something about me one day, and I told him, don't ever say anything about me to any of my teammates. Say it to me with my face. And so that kind of got us started off we were off on a bad foot out there in training camp, and we got in a little skirmish after practice one day.
Without going back into the specific incidents, we were pretty well at each other's throat at the time.
A few days later, he did something to me. He hit me from behind and just completely, he could have broke my jaw, and it was, that's exactly what happened. I mean, his story that I was facing him and saying something to him was a lie.
We didn't have anything else to do for entertainment out there, so we started fighting.
It was in the locker room. I was putting my pads on, and he hit me alongside the head from behind.
It wasn't but a one punch. Clint knocked him down, and so Roger got up, and I was holding him, and Clint ran out of the dressing room, we calmed Roger down. We got him, you know, he said, okay, I'll go see the trainer. And we were walking toward the trainer. Well, we let him into the training room, figuring he was okay. And the next thing we know, he turns around and takes off running toward the dormitory. He was going to get Longley.
I wanted to get him, and people said, well, you know, afterwards, Roger, you profess to be this person. Why did you go after Clint after he hit you? And I kiddingly, I said, well, I wanted to turn the other cheek and let him hit me again. But I wanted to get him, and I would have got him probably within that 3-day period if when I was completely incoherent. I mean, I had 10 stitches in my eye, and I was, of course, he left immediately, ran, and I've never seen him since that day.
Reflecting on it, you know, it's kind of unlikely that it happened. You look back, you say, you know, really had nothing against him. It had nothing to do with football. Something that developed over a very short period of time. And, you know, for my part, if nothing else, it gave me some perspective because it sent me to San Diego.
Why he did it, I don't know if he's told anybody.
Looking back on it, you don't have an explanation for something like that.
You know, sometimes you hear stories that are so outrageous that they couldn't possibly be true. And yet others are so unbelievable that they have to be true. We're not really sure about the validity of the tales that are about to be told, but we can guarantee you that you'll sure find them funny. Without further ado, as they say, the principals involved tell the greatest stories in NFL history.
In 1952, an NFL team called the Dallas Texans went out of business with 5 games left in the season. The commissioner's office took over the franchise and set up their Thanksgiving Day game with the Bears in Akron, Ohio. It was said there were more players in the stadium than fans.
We were in the locker room, and James Phelan used to smoke a cigar. And he would puff the cigar, and he'd talk on the side of his mouth, and he said, "Gentlemen, this has not been the best of seasons, but it is Thanksgiving Day. And you do have a lot to be thankful for. We were put out of Dallas, and we're now wards of the league. But all of those clubs who have won have never had the experience that you're going to have today." And everybody looked at him askingly, and he responded this way. He said, "The big responsibility that you have, the National Football League, and no other club has had this, that the crowd is so small. Rather than introduce you as a team, you all can go up in the stands and meet the crowd individually."
As a footnote, the Texans went out and got their only win ever.
Right, and sends a pass deep in the end zone. Dick Wilkins leaps, and it's touchdown Texans, leaving the Bears on the short end of a humiliating 20-2 score.
It's a shame that head coach Gus Doré's Detroit Lions didn't respond as well to his finest pep talk, as remembered by Hall of Fame halfback Bullet Bill Dudley.
Gus Doré had a rough year. The papers were on him because we weren't winning, and so we're out going to play the Bears. So Gus gets there and he says, "Okay, we're here to play the big bad Bears. We're going out here and get the kicked out of us. Get on the train, get drunk, go home, and get fired. Now let's have some fun." That was the pep talk.
Pittsburgh Steelers coach Walt Keys Kiesling also had an odd way of starting a ball game. The first play every time was running back Fran Rogel straight into the line.
Our game always started off with the first couple of plays every game. Rogel up the middle, and the fans got to holler, "Hey diddle diddle, Rogel up the middle." And this went on and on and on, game after game. So one day I talked to Keith. I said, "Keith, let's fool the fans."
So Keith said, "Okay." And he went off grumbling, and he told one of his linemen, he said, "Listen, we're going to throw on the first down. I want you to go offside, because if this play works, he'll be giving me orders every week." So Finks dropped back. Guy was wide open because the other team was dumbfounded. You know, they'd never done this before. The guy goes all the way, but the lineman's offside. Play's wiped out.
He did it purposely. He told that guy get offside. Next play, "Hey diddle diddle, Rogel up the middle."
Innovation would eventually come to the Steelers years later with head coach Chuck Knoll. Ray Mansfield tells us how.
During two-a-day practices, you know, ever since I started playing junior high football, you know, you practice twice a day, and they'd give you a clean jockey strap and clean T-shirt and clean socks for if you practice twice a day for the second practice. And I remember when I first went to camp with the Steelers, I pulled my jock off. You know, I'd lost about 15 pounds, about 100 degrees out there, and I threw it out in the middle of the floor. And equipment man kept come carrying it back to me, and he says, "You got to wear this afternoon." And I couldn't believe it, you know. I remember when Knoll first came, you know, he called us all together and he says, "We're going to change our jockeys, straps, and whites for every practice." The guys started jumping up and down, cheering. And then he says, "Mansfield, you'll change with Russell. Russell, you'll change with Joe Green."
An interview with Deacon Jones is more like a soliloquy than a conversation, and though technically not a story, the Deacon's dramatic retelling of his own career is one of the NFL's great rhetorical achievements.
Deacon was a public relations stunt. I needed a nickname when I came into the game. My real name is David Jones, and you look at the LA phone book, you see 25 or 30 David Joneses in there, and I needed something to set me apart from the rest of the pack, other than the fact that I was the best football player. I would safely say at this point in time, I was the fastest in the history of the game, from a dead standstill. My lateral movements along with my initial speed was just fantastic. You got this 260 pounds up to 4.5, and you got an angle on him, he should go to the hospital. And that's exactly what I tried to do. With no remorse in my heart, I tried to put him in the hospital every time I tackle him. Let him know and make him go back to that huddle and tell his quarterback, "Damn it, I'm not running in Deacon Jones' area anymore." So each time he came over there, I tried to tear his damn head off. I've developed a term that's used in the game right now called sacking the quarterback. Sacking the quarterback is just like you devastate a city, or you cream a multitude of people. I mean, it's just like you put all the offensive players in one bag, and I just take a baseball bat and beat on the bag. Okay, we just found a term. And I like to think that with that approach to the game, attack, 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 I walked out totally unmarked. And I think that record in itself, 14 years in the pros and 4 in college and 3 in high school, is second to none. I have no scratches, no marks, and nothing but a bleeding heart.
Life in the NFL wasn't so kind to the great Red Grange, who, after a big entrance into pro football, toiled in obscurity.
I remember my first trip to Washington, D.C. Senator McKinley called George Halas and myself and invited us to go to the White House and meet President Coolidge. I remember President Coolidge greeting us, and the senator introduced us as George Halas and Red Grange with the Chicago Bears. And I remember President Calvin Coolidge's remark. He said, "Young men, I'm glad to know you." He said, "I always like animal acts."
The New Orleans Saints mascot Gumbo might have been as big a hit at Coolidge's White House as he was in New Orleans. But the best New Orleans animal story wasn't about Gumbo at all.
Well, we picked up a punt returner. We were in bad need of one, and from Oakland, and he came in on a Saturday. It had just been released, and we had a game that night, so they just took him straight to the Superdome, and he didn't really have to learn any plays or anything, so he was going to catch punts that night. And he had a parrot on his shoulder when he came in and started meeting some of the guys, and beautiful parrot. And it was a little peculiar. He's supposed to be a good return man, so what? And I was just noticing, you know, I was wondering what he's going to do with that parrot during the game. And we have nice dressing facilities there and a nice kind of a little cubby up in our lockers in the dome. And he's put his parrot up there in the locker. And someone asked him, was it just going to leave it there the whole game? He said, sure, he'll just sit there the whole game. Well, he dropped the first punt, and they never put him back in, so obviously he was going to get the axe. It was a one-night stand in New Orleans. When we went back in the dressing room after the game was over, that parrot was dead in the locker up there, just laid out.
Birds and the NFL have a rich and storied tradition together, and Artie Donovan of the old Baltimore Colts remembers when his teammate Don Joyce encountered a whole flock of them.
Joyce was about 6'3", about 270 pounds.
So I said, well, I think Joyce can eat more chicken than anybody else on the team. The guy said, no, he can't. For $100, Marquette can. So they said, all right. So they had 2 more guys bet. So we had $300 bet, and we had this chicken eating contest up in Western Maryland College. So the 8 of us, the 6 guys betting and the 2 guys eating, the participants, we get in there, and here comes the waiters out with a typical Southern Maryland Sunday afternoon meal. Chicken, mashed potatoes, and peas, and all the trimmings. So anyhow, Gino, he just starts eating the chicken. Well, Joyce, he's eating the chicken, the mashed potatoes, and the peas. And we said, for Christ's sakes, don't worry about the mashed potatoes and peas, just eat the chicken. So anyhow, Gino eats 23 pieces of chicken. He stops. 23, 25. Well, Joyce is 24. He said, 2 more, champ, and we win. We called him champ because in the offseason he was a wrestler. He and Big Daddy had a tag team match. You know, they were tag teams. So anyhow, he says, Al, I'm still hungry. And he eats 36 pieces of chicken. So finally he says, whoa, he says, I can't eat anymore. He says, I gotta wash this down. And in front of him we had a big pitcher of iced tea. So there you are, champ, eat it all, drink it all. We don't care if he blows up now because we won the bet. With that, he reached into his pocket and pulled out 4 pieces of saccharin and dropped it in the iced tea. He was watching his calories.
I bet at some time in your life, you probably had a day when everything you did went right. You couldn't have screwed up if you tried. You were, as athletes like to say, in the zone. Here now are 10 guys who spent a day in the zone. The 10 greatest single-game performances in NFL history.
In Pasadena's Rose Bowl, before a crowd of 100,000 people, quarterback Phil Simms led the New York Giants to their first Super Bowl victory with a near-perfect performance. That day, Simms set a Super Bowl completion percentage record, hitting 22 of 25 passes for 268 yards and 3 touchdowns.
He fakes the handoff. Simms trying to throw, does. Touchdown, Zeke Boy!
Leading up to that week, I had an exceptional week of practice of throwing the ball, and I knew that even as a quarterback. I didn't say it to people like, hey, man, I'm really practicing great, but I did throw it well. And I remember going out that day. It was a beautiful day. It was sunny. It was warm. We'd been playing a lot of cold weather. And warming up, I was throwing it so accurately and warming up, I said, man, I am ready. I'm not even going to throw another ball. I knew I was in rhythm and ready right there.
Pitch. Morrister turns around, back to Simms on the flea flicker. Simms is looking way downfield. He's got a receiver.
As time has gone on, I realized what a special game it was for me, more so, because forget, it's even hard to go 22 or 25 in practice when they let you catch the ball. It is a special thing, and I'm proud of it. And I can honestly sit here and say, when every Super Bowl game starts, I'll root for the quarterbacks to throw incompletions early so I can enjoy the game and I don't have to worry about them breaking my record.
Simms set a record of another sort when he earned a few extra dollars by uttering a few simple words.
Thank you. Terrific.
What am I supposed to say? I'm going to Disney?
I'm going to Walt Disney World and Disneyland.
Just goes to show you, the first one's always the best. The one they used was actually the very first time I ever said it.
I'm going to go to Disney World. I'm going to go to Disneyland.
But they were trying to protect themselves that first year because it was the first time they ever did that kind of commercial to see if it worked out. So I actually said it on the field quite a few times, and then when I got in the locker room and was being interviewed by everybody, I said it a few more times. Everybody's going, what's he saying? What's going on?
I'm going to go to Disneyland. All these people thinking, what the is he doing?
Al Davis has probably never been to the Magic Kingdom, but his team has reigned supreme in 3 Super Bowls. One came when the wild card Raiders trumped Dick Vermeil's Eagles with number 53 linebacker Rod Martin.
Play fake. Back is Jaworski with time to throw. He's got through one. Intercepted. Rod Martin.
Martin's first interception set up a touchdown. In the second quarter, he rescued the Raiders from what could have been a costly turnover.
Out to the 5, the 10, straight ahead 15. He has hit a torn fumble. Followed on by Rod Martin. The Raiders have it.
Martin had 1 fumble recovery, was his team's second leading tackler, and produced a Super Bowl record 3 interceptions.
Back is Jaworski. Sets up really deep. Now comes up the middle. Picked off. Rod Martin, the third.
Rod Martin was not Super Bowl 15's MVP, Perhaps he should have excelled on defense and offense, something Sid Luckman did in the 1943 championship. Luckman led the Bears to a title by throwing for 5 touchdowns, leading his team in rushing, and intercepting 2 passes.
I think probably that was humbly I say, that's the best game I probably ever played.
Sometimes, however, a player's best game is not enough. On Christmas Day 1971, Kansas City Chief running back Ed Podolak set an all-time postseason record by gaining 350 yards on pass receptions, rushes, and returns.
I was real excited because my rookie year, when we won the Super Bowl, I'd been injured. I tore a hamstring, and now I was going to have the opportunity to actually play as the starting tailback on a team that I thought had a real good chance of winning the Super Bowl.
Podolak piled up the yards and scored a pair of touchdowns, the last to give Kansas City a 7-point lead midway into the 4th quarter. But the Dolphins tied it up in the final 2 minutes. Podolak then gave the Chiefs one last chance to win it in regulation, when his clutch 78-yard kickoff return set up a Jan Stenerud chip shot field goal try.
I was exhausted at that time, and I just assumed it was going to be another Chiefs victory because of the tremendous records that Jan Stenerud put up through his career.
But Stenerud's kick sailed to the right. The game went to overtime, where the Chiefs continued to rely on their tired but tenacious running back. Single-handedly, Podolak once again drove Kansas City into field goal range. This time, the kick was blocked. In the second overtime period, Miami won the NFL's longest game, ending forever Ed Podolak's championship dream.
You get out into your 6th or 7th year, and you realize the end of your career is near. And I think it's about that time it started setting in that probably that was going to be the best chance I had to play on a Super Bowl team, and that the effort that I gave that day and the type of day I had, I probably would never have again.
In defeat, Ed Podolak proved he had the heart of a champion by producing one of the NFL's greatest performances of all time. A great football game can challenge the limits of a man and transcend the limits of a playing field.
Went to chapel that night, and in our discussion, we talked about whether or not God decided who won football games. And if you can imagine a bunch of athletes sitting around on this higher philosophical level of discussion, and we left with the conclusion that maybe God didn't decide who won football games, but as believers in God, it was up to us to use our God-given talents to go out and give all that we had as a way of praising God. And I went to bed that night wondering if I had ever done that. And the next day, that opportunity came.
The Chargers led 24-0. They fell behind. Then, Kellen Winslow grabbed the lead right back. Number 80 was everywhere. If it took 2 tackles on one play after an interception on 2 different Dolphins, then so be it. He simply would not let his team lose. Winslow caught 13 passes for 166 yards, and he was battered on nearly every one. Yet, bruised and exhausted, he found the will to endure.
He set playoff records for most catches and most times dragging yourself up off of the bench and back into the huddle. He knew how important he was to the whole effort.
When I was beat up, the Dolphins were taking shots at me with the defensive end, then the linebacker, then the strong safety. I had to reach down deeper inside of me and kind of pick it up a little bit and wonder, had I given everything I had? There were several times I felt like going to the side and sitting down, but always found some more resolve a little bit deeper and reaching a little bit deeper and coming out back on the field.
After blocking a game-winning field goal attempt with 4 seconds left, he pressed on in overtime. And when San Diego finally prevailed, so had Kellen Winslow. In a truly heroic performance, he had answered his own pregame challenge. Never again would he wonder if he had ever given all that he had. While football is a demanding game, it can also be forgiving. It gave Otto Graham a chance for redemption in back-to-back title games against Detroit.
The 53 championship game we played in Detroit, and that was probably my worst game ever because I had some kind of a rash on my hands. They're all chapped, and I just couldn't grip the ball. I couldn't control it. And I think I completed 2 or 3 passes out of 17 or 18, which is not very good. And so there's no doubt in my mind that I had more to do with losing that ball than anybody else.
Automatic Otto regained his touch with a masterful performance in the championship rematch.
It was one of those days where everything we did turned to gold. I mean, no matter what we did, it was right.
The Browns cash in on their opportunity as Otto Graham uncorks a beautiful toss. Speedy Ray Renfro sprints into the open, and there's Graham's pass for a sensational 37-yard touchdown play.
Oh, I scored 3 touchdowns, but I think 2 of them were quarterback sneaks. All the other guys moved the ball down there, and then I took the ball the last yard or 2, which is, of course, easy to do. And I made one run. I ran around the end myself and threw a couple touchdown passes. I had the time to throw it. My receivers got open, and I hit them. It's that simple.
The story of just too much Otto Graham. And a tremendous roar goes up from the crowd as Otto Graham leaves the field. Graham ran for 3 and passed for 3 more touchdowns with an unparalleled performance.
Some performances, no matter how spectacular, seem dull because they come too easily. But when such a performance approaches perfection, it takes on a lasting luster.
Black 59 Razor! Black 59 Razor! 49-7!
In Super Bowl 24, the performance of the 49er receivers was great in its own right. But if you look deeper at what Joe Montana did to get them the ball, you'd see a level of execution unmatched in Super Bowl history. Touchdown number 1, patience. Tom Rathman draws a linebacker and is covered, so it's on to option 2. But tight end Brent Jones can't get a clean release. Jerry Rice is still into his pattern, so it's on to target number 4, John Taylor, who has broken off his route. Finally, Rice clears. There's a window of opportunity, and Montana delivers. Speed reading accomplishes the first touchdown. Listening to Brent Jones, who senses a weakness, leads to number 2.
Went A right or C right or left, man, free release, backer. I had like 2 steps on him. That middle backer's slow.
Information gathered, Montana strikes quickly.
Montana rolls to his right, throws to Brent Jones. Great catch. He's into the end zone.
Touchdown number 3, execution. A look off to the left, a pump fake, a perfect post-route strike. Montana was calm, he was poised, he was simply unbelievable and unshakable grace under fire. Touchdown number 4, a rocket to Rice, arriving a split second ahead of a fast-closing safety. Record-setting touchdown number 5, a 35-yard rainbow to John Taylor, just so he wouldn't feel left out.
Throws for the end zone. Taylor! Touchdown 49ers!
In addition to his 5 touchdown passes, Montana was 22 of 29 for 297 yards. A great day by a great quarterback, whose only flaw is making it look far too easy. Charger head coach Sid Gilman had his shades, a Marlboro, and an offense that could smoke anybody. Against the Patriots in the '63 championship, he could unleash explosive halfback Paul Lowe or go deep to Hall of Famer Lance Allworth. But, as the saying goes, everyone puts their pants on one leg at a time. So on this day, Gilman's weapon of choice was a small fullback named Keith Lincoln.
drove through the game with my wife, and I was telling her that I felt sort of like fluish, or just didn't feel just a little bit off, and was concerned if I'd have the stamina to play the whole game. We were hungry. We were looking for a championship. Going into the game, I thought they had the better defenses of the two teams, and we had the better offense. I thought it'd be a low-scoring football game.
Lincoln shook off the flu and Patriot defenders, and after 2 carries, he had 123 yards.
I remember very early in the ball game, Keith Lincoln taking the ball and running 70 or 80 yards up the field. Touchdown. I mean, it's 3rd or 4th play of the game on offense. And next series, Keith Lincoln back again, 80-some yards for another touchdown. And when we were sitting on the sidelines, everybody wanted to get a seat on the sidelines, wanted to see it. Forget the water, forget this, forget that. We want to watch this happening.
I think the key thing that we did to Boston was different, was that we showed emotion. That's something that we had not shown them earlier in the year when we played them. And I think that's what gives us the advantage. The motion, I think that froze our linebackers, and if you can just freeze them for a second, an opportunity to hit them quick.
Lincoln set an all-time postseason record for yards from scrimmage, and it was said that from that day on, in San Diego schoolrooms, when the history teacher asked, "What did Lincoln do?" the answer was, he totaled 349 yards in the AFL Championship. 12 years earlier, versatile Cleveland receiver Dub Jones put on a memorable one-man show versus the tough Chicago Bears in 1951.
Man who's been running wild all afternoon, but always in the right direction, Dub Jones swings wide to his left, falls in behind some beautiful downfield blocking, rollicks into the Bear lair to personally account for his and Cleveland's 4th touchdown. That one-man scoring whirlwind, Dub Jones scoots up the far sidelines and leaves everyone behind for the 5th Cleveland touchdown.
That one-man scoring whirlwind frolicked into the Bear lair a record 6 times. And even more amazingly, he scored the last 5 times he touched the ball. On December 12, 1965, Chicago's Wrigley Field was a sloppy stage. A great day by anyone seemed unthinkable. The aim for each player was simply not to embarrass himself. But out of the gloom came the dawning of a legend. Gale Sayers felt it. It was his day. He was a mudder. His cuts were crisp, and while others slipped, the Kansas Comet streaked up and down the field.
It was a great day for the Chicago Bears, and it's a great day for Gale Sayers personally. I think that in the mud, I kind of ran more flat-footed than other people ran. When I made my cuts, it was not on my toes. It's a little bit more on the balls of your foot and your heel. And I think that kept me on balance.
Sayers raced down the stretch to 4, then 5 touchdowns. But with a huge lead, head coach George Halas pulled in the reins and took him out.
The thing was to win a ball game. And once you got ahead by 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns, you take out the first string and put in the reserves. And so, no, it wasn't any talk on the sidelines about a record. I didn't play hardly any of the 4th quarter. So the way we was going, I could have scored 8 touchdowns. There's no doubt in my mind.
Fans pleaded for Sayers' return. So the Papa Bear put his rookie in for one last time to return a punt. Gale Sayers gained 336 total yards and scored 6 touchdowns. Halas stated afterward, it was the greatest performance he had ever seen. It was one for the ages. The single greatest day in NFL history.
After sifting through the thousands of miles of film that we have in our archives for this greatest ever series, We still had some fun facts and some uncanny coincidences left over on film that we just couldn't group into any specific category. So we made one up. Here are the 10 greatest miscellaneous facts in NFL history.
In the 75-year history of the NFL, a running back has had a 200-yard receiving day exactly twice. Oh, before I go on, check out this block. Whoa, nice. Anyway, as I was saying, twice a running back has had 200 yards receiving, and both times it was the Giants' number 35, Gene Choo-Choo Roberts. In 1949, he had 201 against the Bears, and just 3 weeks later, he had 212 in Green Bay. The AFL did have one back top the 200-yard receiving mark. In 1965, sure-handed Curtis McClinton had 213 against the Broncos. But his record-setting day was bittersweet. 5 days earlier, his roommate and the team's regular starting halfback, Mac Lee Hill, died on the operating table following knee surgery. Any list of running backs who specialized in receiving has to include Roger Craig. In 1985, he became the first and only back to gain 1,000 yards receiving and rushing in the same season.
Set back is Craig. Here's Montana giving it off to Craig. He jogs left, comes back right, past the 10, past the 5, and battles his way to the end zone.
But Craig has an even more miscellaneous honor. After he left the 49ers, his high knees pumped for the Raiders, then the Vikings. 3 teams, 11 seasons, and he went to the playoffs every year. Miscellaneous fact number 8 is a two-parter. The first half belongs to Johnny Johnson, who in September of 1994 established a record for the longest run in league history, which was not a touchdown, 90 yards against the Bears.
15, 20-yard line, 25, being chased from behind, 30, 35, 40, breaks away, 50-yard line, still going 40-yard line, catch to the center of the field, he might go all the way, being chased from behind, 20, 15, 10, and he is down at the 6-yard line.
In 1972, Cardinals rookie Bobby Moore, whom we now know as Ahmad Rashad, had the longest reception, which was not a touchdown.
I ran at least 200 yards on that play. But you know what the great thing about it? The catch was a great catch. It was one of those cold days, and it just stuck on my hand. The play, you have to see the play, because I went from sideline, I caught it on the left sideline, then I ran to the right middle of the field, then all the way to the other sideline. So by the time this guy caught me from behind, I fell on my back. That's how tired I was. He barely touched my back. I fell down backwards.
Moore started and ended his record-setting play at the 1-yard lines.
You know, I've never really been into records, but after the game, someone told me that it was the longest non-scoring pass play in the history of the National Football League. I thought that was pretty neat. I mean, that's a record that can't be broken.
The Eagles' number 26, Al Nelson, also holds a record that may never be broken. In 1966, before the goalposts were moved to the back of the end zone, he returned a missed field goal 100 yards, the longest such play ever to that point. Watch the Browns' Lou the Toe Groza set the standard for kickers trying to make a tackle. Anyway, in 1971, Ken Ellis of the Packers also went 100 yards. But Nelson was mighty determined to hold the only record actually listed under miscellaneous in the NFL record book all by himself. The week after Ellis tied his record at 100 yards, Nelson went 101 yards against the Cowboys. If anyone playing today could challenge Nelson's mark, it might be the Saints' Tyrone Hughes, because he's returned footballs for touchdowns all sorts of ways. In 1993 and 94, Hughes set a record for the most returned touchdowns over a 2-year span with 7.
And he drops the football. Tyrone Hughes picks it up. And here we go. 30. Young chases him. 40. Young misses him. It's Hughes in a foot race. Inside the 35. Makes another move. He's to the 25. The 20. He's going to do it. He's going to score.
Although Hughes always seems to end up in the end zone, his miscellaneous facts don't end there. In 1994, the man of many happy returns broke a 41-year-old record for the most return yards in a game by amassing 347 against the Rams and, of course, he scored twice.
There's a seam. He's up to the 40. 2 men to beat. He's to the 40 of the Rams. 30. Cuts it back. Still running. 10. 5. Touchdown. Stinks. Tyrone Hughes from his own 3-yard line. Straight ahead 10. 15. Far sideline 20. Up to the 30. Up to the 40. And he's got Sente. Has to beat. He may be going again. Tie on the fly. The daily double, folks. That's another touchdown on a kickoff return by Tyrone Hughes. 98 yards.
Barry Sanders set an unofficial record in 1994 for the longest run with one shoe. This sock hop didn't go the distance, though, because Barry either heard the footsteps or didn't heed the advice of Satchel Paige. Don't look back. Something may be gaining on you.
You got the dangerous back in the NFL. He liable to break it any minute.
Barry broke him often in 1994, but he couldn't go the distance like Forrest Gump. In fact, he was more like Bud Bundy. He never seemed to score.
Side piece to the 45, 50. Carry to the 40. He's on a streak. They'll never get him. 20, 15, 10. Oh, they do it from behind at the 4-yard line. He's off to the races. It's a sprint. He's chased Wolford on the angle. Donnell Wolford will chase him down. He's off to the races. Barry, 35, 30, 25, near side 20, stiff arm, and out of bounds. Oh, his teammates are going to razz him, though. He got caught from behind again.
Sanders had runs of 85, 84, 69, 63, 62, and 48 yards that did not go for touchdowns. And fittingly, he set an NFL record for the most yards rushing in a game without a touchdown, 237 against Tampa Bay.
Barry Sanders cut back over the middle. Now sweeps to the outside. He's off. 30, 40, 50. Barry to the far side. 40 to the 30. Barry is going to be...
1994 was a record-breaking year for Barry, but even he learned that in the NFL you can run, but you can't hide. Old Larry Cole was a merry old soul, a scoring threat he was not. But when facing the Skins, he transformed from within. Boy, did this cowboy get hot. A weird hop here, a lucky bounce there, the ball ending up in his mitts. 4 career scores, all against them Skins. Man, he gave Washington fits.
The first one, it was like he's a rookie and he got a touchdown. It's like, gosh, great, we needed it and we got the touchdown. And the second one was, no, wait a minute. And the third one was, you've got to be kidding. By that time, it was kind of like, this isn't real, this isn't happening. And I remember Tom Landry just shaking his head. He said, I don't know what you're doing, but just keep doing it. And from that point, then everybody expected me to score. And then for that, it took me at least another 11 years to get it back and doing it.
Kruzak has it. No blitz coming. He is hit. The ball is intercepted by Larry Cole. Here's the Cowboys defensive tackle with a touchdown. Larry Cole has done it again. 44 yards for the guy who has made a specialty of scoring against the Washington Redskins. Old Bubber ends an 11-year drought. He hadn't scored against them since 1969.
When I got back to the press room, when I got up in my perch like I was king for a day, and the first question was, well, why hadn't you scored earlier? I said, well, anybody can have an off decade.
Miscellaneous fact number 3 involves former Philadelphia quarterback Adrian Burke, who in 1954 tied an NFL record with 7 touchdown passes in one game. When his playing days ended, Burke became an NFL official. 15 years after Burke tossed his lucky 7, Joe Kapp of the Minnesota Vikings did the same. In an eerie twist, one of the officials working that game was Adrian Burke.
This is the new era of the Steelers. Steelers 70. It's not like the old Steelers, believe me. The public, the football world might as well wake up and just take what I'm saying and heed it, because we're going to be a winner this year. I'm sure of it.
As a rookie, Terry Bradshaw was just a bit confident, and if there were any doubts as to how good he was, all you had to do was ask him.
I could run, I could throw it 80 yards, I could knock tacklers off, and I could outrun linebackers, and had a head full of blonde hair and muscles. And
Okay, all right. Pittsburgh's new Man of Steel was impressive. But like all superheroes, he practiced safety first, and second, and third. You see, in each of Bradshaw's first 3 games, he was sacked for a safety. Bradshaw was the worst at first, but he saved his best for last, the 4th quarter of Super Bowls.
When the game was on the line, I just dearly just loved it. I just felt so comfortable, and the challenge just excited me so that I was beside myself, and yet I was always seemed to be under control. Nothing ever bothered me. I just loved the big game.
In all 4 Super Bowls in which he appeared, he threw a 4th quarter touchdown pass.
He pulls it in at the 30, the 20, touchdown Pittsburgh.
And a friend of mine, Buddy Martin, told me that one time. He said, you know, you threw a touchdown in all 4 quarters. And he said, he coined this phrase, you have those championship genes. And he would use it when we played golf. He'd hit a great shot, and he'd turn to me and say, championship genes, baby. And it got to be a joke.
It might have been the genes, but then again, it could have been the water in Pittsburgh. Dan Marino was born and raised in Pittsburgh. So too was the legendary John Unitas. Dan Marino played for Don Shula and lost a Super Bowl with Shula. So too did John Unitas. But the #1 miscellaneous fact in the history of the National Football League is that both Dan Marino and John Unitas have the same middle name, Constantine.
Well, that's it. We're tapped out. In this greatest ever series, we presented the most memorable plays, players, performances, stories, and tall tales of the last 75 years. But you know, the great thing about football is that there's always next season. And who knows what magical moments await to be captured on film. Look at it this way. We're only 25 years away from the greatest ever series of the last 100 years. Hope I'm around for that one. For NFL Films, I'm Steve Sabol.